This lesson is an introduction to data and tables. So statistics is a branch of mathematics, and in that branch the focus is on collecting, organizing, and analyzing data. And then of course we need some way to display that data. One way that we display the data, sometimes before we do the analyzing, sometimes to help us to analyze, is in a table. So a table is a great way for us to just visually be able to compare different pieces of data. So in this very fictitious made up data that I made up, this gives post-high school plans for a local high school, a local Omaha area high school. And it gives their plans based and also talks about their ethnicity, so white or not white, basically. So looking at these questions, looking at the table, we can answer questions about our data. So here we have what percent of students were white. So this one they're asking about percents, but notice none of these values are in percents. So the percent of students that were white, we would have to find ourselves. There are 268 white students. There are 322 students total. So to find the percent of white students, I would have to take 268 divided by 322, which would give me a decimal. And that decimal is 0.8322, etc., but they're asking for a percent. And so then I would have to turn that into a percent. So about 83.2% of students are white. What percent of students went to the workforce? So the workforce, obviously we have 33 out of a total of 322. So just as I did here, I'm going to take 33 divided by 322. This time I'm going to turn it straight into a percent. So 33 divided by 322 gives me 0.10248, etc. I'm going to round that to the nearest tenth, so 10.2%. What percent of minority students went to college? So we're focused only on minority students, 54. And total, we had 50, so 44 and 6 would be 50 out of 54. So notice I'm using 54 on the bottom and not 322 because they're asking specifically about minority students. So what percent of them went to college as opposed to what percent of students overall went to college. So 50 out of 54 is about 92.6%. And then what percent of white students went to the military? So just as we did here when we focused only on minority students, we're going to focus only on white students. What percent went to the military? So there are 268 white students and 4 of those went to the military. And that gives me 1.5% rounded, not very many. Use the data in this table to answer the following questions and then press play to see how you did. So this is a table that gives data for smokers or non-smokers at the mall and also looks at their high school or collegiate careers. So what percent of shoppers are smokers? So notice we're just talking shoppers in general. There's 200 total. And there are 50 out of 200. So 50 out of 200 would of course give me 25% of shoppers are smokers. What percent of shoppers went to a 2-year college or more? So 2 or 4 year, that would be these two together. So if I added those together, I would get 107 out of 200 total. And turning that into a percent, I would get 53.5%. And that's for question 2. And then what percent of non-smokers have a high school education? So again, now we're focused only on non-smokers, which is 150. So that's going to be the bottom number. High school education is 61 out of 150. And that gives me 40.7% approximately.